You are up. We are looking at First Kings 19, 15 through 21. Micah's going to read even the Old Testament really hard names. Fake it until you make it. Ready, go.
Then the Lord told him, "Go back the same way you came, and travel to the wilderness of Damascus. When you arrive there, anoint Hazael to be king of Aram. Then anoint Jehu, grandson of Nimshi, to be king of Israel, and anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, from the town of Abel-Meholah, to replace you as my prophet. Anyone who escapes from Hazael will be killed by Jehu, and those who escape Jehu will be killed by Elisha. Yet I will preserve 7,000 others in Israel who have never bowed down to Baal or kissed him." So Elijah went and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, plowing the field. There were 12 teams of oxen in the field, and Elisha was plowing the 12th team. Elijah went over to him and threw his cloak across his shoulders and walked away. Elisha left the oxen standing there, ran after Elijah, and said to him, "First let me go and kiss my father and mother goodbye, and then I will go with you." Elijah replied, "Go on back, but think about what I have done to you." So Elisha returned to his oxen and slaughtered them. He used the wood from the plow to build a fire to roast their flesh. He passed around the meat to the townspeople, and they all ate. Then he went with Elijah as his assistant.
Sweet. Well done with those Old Testament names. I even saw Ricky go. Yeah, it's good. So here's the crazy thing. Let me start out by saying what we say as a reminder. The greatness of God. People in the Bible and throughout human history believed in the greatness of God and have given their lives to Him because they knew that He was worth it. We are encouraging you to take steps of faith, getting out of the boat like Peter in Matthew chapter 14. So when we look at a passage like this, we need to understand, first thing is first, and this is the first thing I want you to understand, is Elijah is a big dude. Like, he's a big time. Okay, here's why. Number one, he's one of the most famous prophets in all of the Old Testament. Okay, when you talk about prophets in the Old Testament, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Samuel, Elijah, he's in the top. I mean, he's like some of the greatest of all times. Okay, he is a great prophet. Here's some of the things that he did. Okay, just to let you know, he's not JV. Okay, I mean, no offense against JV, but like, this dude's playing for the World Series. Okay, like, he's famous and he's a really bad dude. Okay, in a good way, like bad dude. Okay, he raised the dead. He called a drought for 3 years. He stood up to the worst king of Israel ever and said, "If you don't get your act straight with God, I won't let it rain until you do." Like, he's like straight front and center going, "Hey, get your act straight." I like people like that who are willing to look at somebody and go, "I don't mind calling down the wrath of God on you, because vengeance is mine, says the Lord, and I just want to be His instrument," right? Okay, so he raises the dead. He calls a drought for 3 years. He goes toe-to-toe with the worst king of Israel. He calls fire down from the tallest mountain in all of Israel. Then he gets to kill 850 prophets. Cool. You ever have a bad day and you're like, if I could go find 850 prophets and chop their heads off, that'd be awesome, right? You ever had those days? Yeah. He was a prophet, but these were bad prophets of the prophet of Baal and another bad god. Okay, so he's like the only one that's standing up against 850 of these bad prophets. And at the end of this showdown on the top of Mount Carmel, all of a sudden he goes, "Hey, I'm going to chase you down, and I get to wipe you out." Yeah, so big G versus little g. Thank you, Stephen. That was really good. So he killed 850 prophets opposing the one true God of Israel, and he was known throughout Israel and other kingdoms as the most influential prophet of his time. So he is something to be reckoned with because he does things. Crazy thing. He has this thing about respect. Dwayne, you're going to love this. At one point, there were a group of teenagers that came upon Elijah, and they recognized that maybe his haircut wasn't the same because he had male pattern baldness. And they said wrong, mean things to him and said, "Go up, you baldy. Go up, you baldy." And this is what the scripture says. He called down a curse of 2 female bears, and they mauled the youth who disrespected Elijah. Okay? So is he a bad dude? Okay? I'm just saying, Pastor Matt and I were talking about this. It's like, how do you share the gospel out of disrespecting an old prophet and calling down 2 female bears to kill 20 teenagers? That's almost my dream verse, you know? Just like at some point, you make me mad enough, like I'm snapping. I'm calling out like $3 right out of Inks Lake, and they're just coming to get you. So hear this. When I say Elijah, you should be in awe, really, of who he is. It's because of what he allowed God to do in and through his life in the Old Testament. I mean, he's top-notch. I can't overstate how top-notch he is. Okay? So we look at Elijah, and he comes to Elisha, or Elisha, depending on your pronunciation or your pronunciation. Bottom line is, I don't like these guys being too close in their pronunciation. So there's Elijah and Elisha, and here's what happens. If you followed along with what Micah said, Elisha was basically the son of a rich landowner, and he was plowing. In those days, typically, if you're a rich landowner, you have someone that plows for you. Slaves, servants, indentured servants, whatever, people with teeth, people without teeth, who cares? Okay, but bottom line is, if you're the son of a rich man, you're not the one who does the heavy lifting. So imagine this, you're the son of a rich man who's doing the heavy lifting in the yard, in the field, and you're doing the hard work. And the greatest prophet known to all of the nation of Israel comes to your oxen and says, here's my coat. Come on, let's go. That's basically what he's saying. That's crazy. Because in that time, like for me, it would be like me giving my shirt or my jacket to Stephen, or the keys to my truck to Stephen, and saying, hey, come on, let's go. It's a legitimate sign in Old Testament custom that if someone of significant stature comes and says, hey, here's my coat, here's my mantle, my cloak, whatever the case may be, whatever your translation is, at that point, they're saying, I understand who you are, but if you understand who I am, you're going to follow me. It's an invitation. And this is a crazy thing, is because at this point, he's plowing and he is doing work that is of zero significance eternally. It does not matter. It does not matter in the sense of, yeah, he's going to feed his family, but it's not going to have an impact that other people will care or remember about. You get me? Some of you want to hide for the rest of your life so that you end up don't having any influence on other folks. But listen, I don't think that's what God has called any of us to run and hide, to be scared, but to be bold. And I think that was a beautiful pick on the song, is to talk about being bold, about taking the battle to the world, about who you are and what God has done for you. So here's what happens. Why was Elijah here? Verse 16 says, as you shall anoint Jehu the son of Nimshi as king over Israel, and Elisha the son of Shaphat of Abel, whatever he said with the M word, you shall anoint him as prophet in your place. Why was Elijah here? To anoint Elisha to be the next prophet over Israel. So here's what I want to tell you. If he went there, it's because he believed God, he trusted God, and he obeyed God. So Elijah, this great prophet of Israel, is now going to set aside his mantle, his cloak, and give it to some guy who's plowing a field. Okay? And so here's what happens, verse 19. So he departed from there, and he found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him, and he was with the 12. And then Elijah passed him and threw his mantle on him. And this is legitimately one of those moments where he gives him his coat on his back and says, and it's a symbol. It is a significant symbol of saying, all right, now I want you to follow me. It's a huge symbol. Okay? So he's placed this on him to say, follow me. In verse 20, he comes back and he says, what have I done to you? Meaning, if you understand this, if you're clicking in with all this, Elisha, you know what's about to go down. So Elisha's response is, let me go tell my parents goodbye. Really, he's saying at that point, he says, let me go tell my parents I'll see you later. Like, I'll be back in a few days, right? That's legitimately what he's trying to get across to Elijah, is to say, let me go tell my parents goodbye. I'll be back at some point. I mean, some of you, when you get out of the car, you know, hey, bye, Mom. Love you. I'll see you at 3:30, 3:40, 3:50, 5 o'clock, whatever. But this is not what Elijah has come to tell him. He says, you are about to follow me as God has brought me out of my living status and taken me all over Israel. He's saying legitimately, you are going to replace me. Which is a crazy thing to think, that at this point, Elijah trusted God that he was going to use Elisha in a powerful way. See, I think the majority of the ministry that should happen in a youth group or in a church doesn't happen because of the pastor or the youth pastor. I think we should be doing the least of the work. I think the majority of the work of the church should be done by the people empowered by the pastor or the youth pastor. So the majority of the work of the youth ministry shouldn't be done by me. Granted, I get to teach. I'm a talking head. You could replace me in a moment. Pastor Matt said it well Sunday, that if I died this weekend, okay, next week, Wednesday night would happen. You would have church. So listen, you can replace me. You can't replace your walk with God. And so if Elijah has gone to Elisha and says, I want you to follow me and become the next prophet of Israel, he's not only trusted God, but he's also trusted God's plan for that person. And I've challenged these adult leaders that when they walk into this room, that they look at you as if God can use you, then be here. If they believe that walking in this room and they can look out in front of these dry bones, Ezekiel 37, if they can look at you and believe that you can be a major influencer for God, then stay here. If not, if they don't believe in you, they don't need to be here either. You get what I'm saying? Is that I believe in you. Because if Christ can change me and he's done the things in my life that he's done, then why can't he do that same thing in your life? If God made the platypus, do you think he can use you? Platypus is the ugliest creature on God's green earth. Okay, everybody's got their opinion. It's usually like 2 armpits. Everybody's got 2 and they stink. Bottom line is, listen, does a platypus have anything to do with what I'm talking about? Nope. Y'all get crunk because I call a platypus ugly. Stop.
Don't go there.
Bottom line is, if God can do that, if he can create the stars and the immense vastness of space, if you trust him, what can he do with your life? But I'm scared. I don't care. I spoke in front of 2,000 people on Friday in front of the courthouse square, which, by the way, was the first time I remember my dad saying I love you, is in the hallways of that same courthouse in 1997. But I came from a broken family, so I shouldn't be able to speak in front of 2,000 people, right? I shouldn't be on Fox News. That was cool. Well, why should I get to do that? Why? Because at that very moment, I knew that I was available and was given ability because I was available. Because the moment you say, I can't, you won't. Stop making excuses to the God who created you and gave you breath in your life.
Yes.
If Elijah can look at Elisha, who's plowing the field, and he can look at him and say, I believe that he's the next prophet of Israel, I can look at you and go, whatever weird actions that you have sometimes when you walk in the room, I can look at you and go, God can use you. I mean, just check this. All right, just check this. Earlier today, I posted a video on YouTube of Mackenzie reading her mom's story about where she donated a kidney to a guy she didn't even know. Got me? Did not know, did not have family resemblance to. All of a sudden, she's like, I found out about this guy who had a kidney. He needed a kidney. I had a kidney. We matched. Hey, it was great. She gave up her kidney for this man. Did not know him. We've had like 8 views, 12 views, whatever. We've had like 160 views of this video. All of Mackenzie in her cross-country outfit sitting on a stool right here reading from a piece of paper. Well, God can't use me. He can use a teenager reading from a piece of paper to reach 160 people in our community.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's possible, because if God is in that moment, God can use you in that moment. Regardless of what you think about who you are or what you've done or how incompetent you want to tell me that you think you are. Bottom line is, God used a person like Elijah who was just plowing a field. So don't tell me what you can't do. I'll look at you and go, you don't have the same God that I do. So here's the next thing. This is crazy. Elisha has a response, and I think this response is really interesting, because the first response is he says, I'll see you later, no big deal. Elijah reminds him, Elisha, I called you. Elisha the prophet invited him to join him in great steps of faith. Basically, he's coming back. He says, you may not understand this. Guys, you need to hear this. When an adult invites you to be part of a small group, they are inviting you to journey with them, good days, bad days, in following Christ and the adventure that entails. They're inviting you to become part of an adventure where you follow Christ into what may or may not be the unknown for the rest of your life, trying to figure out how God works and how God does stuff, and understanding God and loving God more and trusting God and seeing how that adventure plays out. And when they say, hey, I want you to join me, and they're excited and they're pumped, it's because they've seen God do some crazy, amazing things in the lives of teenagers, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, join me. This is going to be cool. Like, we're going to ask some questions. There are going to be some tough questions, but I'll tell you, it's the best questions. I mean, like, Renee comes to me all the time. She's like, sometimes those questions are like right at me, and I'm like, that's a God thing. And maybe at some point when you hear a question that's uncomfortable, maybe it's because God's trying to tell you, get out of your boat, get out of your comfort zone, because you're clinging to the sides of the boat until the boat sinks. Maybe if you believed about you what God says about you, that wouldn't be an issue. Get me? Also, adults and student leaders, listen, if you're an adult or you think you're a leader, we have to believe the next generation of students that we are ministering to, we have to believe in them. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to share the gospel with somebody, you need to know that at any point they can trust the gospel and their lives can be eternally changed because of it. We're not playing. When I have conversations with some of y'all, and it's like those one-on-one, face-to-face, and sometimes I'm doing hand signals or whatever, and every once in a while I go, you got me, and I make my best impression of Coach Green. I'm like, you got me. In those moments when I'm looking at you square in the eye, that's because at that moment I see past what you are right now to who you can be in Christ when you stop making excuses because junk or this or that has happened in your life. If you guys have seen the movie Dark Phoenix by X-Men, it's a really neat movie, but it really tells the story of Jean Grey, who has immense power. Like, if you play the video game, she's like the most powerful X-Men ever. Okay, so here's the crazy thing. In this movie, this is what happens, prefacing what she's doing here. She wanted to change the radio station. A lot like some of you like to change the radio station, because like I like listening to XM63, which is like a Christian radio station, or every once in a while I'll flip over to the Garth channel until it's That Summer, and then I realize that's a totally unholy song and I gotta go back to like the 70s music. But here's what happens. All of a sudden her brain says, I want to change the channel. So you know what she does? From the back seat, she changes the channel because she's telekinetic and she's got all these crazy powers. And all of a sudden, like, whatever reason, there's an argument in the front seat, and then the car just like crashes, and then her parents are killed in this car accident, and she comes away without a scratch. And so, that being said, here's where she meets Xavier. Hello. My name's Charles Xavier, and yes, they are. And it's very exciting to have to tell you that.
So what happens to me now?
That's why I'm here, actually. You see, I have a school that is for young people who are like you, special,
Special's just a nice word for
weird, or crazy. Yep. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it can be a word used to describe people who are significant, amazing, or just really cool. Got gifts, June. You know what? Take this pen, right? It's something that, well, actually, just take it. It's a gift. Now, you could choose to draw a really good picture with that, or you could use it to poke someone's eyes out. But either way, it's still just a pen. It's just a gift. And what you choose to do with your gift, that's entirely up to you. But if you want to use it to do good stuff, I can help.
I don't like the other doctors.
No. And you're not like the other patients. Be safe.
I can't stay here.
Okay. Why not?
It's too nice. I break things.
How's this sound? If you break something, anything, I can fix it.
Not anything.
I can help you. I can help you so that you never have to break things ever again.
You think you can fix me too?
No. No, because you are not broken. I think when you look at the enormity of the situation, some of you believe, just like Jean Grey, I'm broken, I'm not worth it, I break things, I'm not worthy. Who says? Who says? Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, magazines, people at school, like their opinion matters? I mean, some of my worst critics in school were my teachers. I had a fourth grade teacher call me dumb. My knuckles didn't drag, they just kind of bumped. I don't know why you're laughing, you're part of my gene pool. But check this, listen. The moment that you stop believing that God can do something in and through you is the moment that you refuse Him. And you miss out. Like, I wouldn't have changed the journey I've been on for the last 27, 28 years. Like, I've gotten to meet some of the neatest people. I've got to be around some of the coolest stories of redemption that you just can't make this stuff up. And that's the thing that I look at us and I go, the whole reason that this whole series of like this whole season of what we're doing is trying to encourage you to have steps of faith so that you get out of your box, you get out of living in just normal, or as we saw on Sunday morning, average day. We pursue God, we pursue excellence, we pursue faith, we pursue opportunities that God can use us. Use you. Not use me. I'm sick of being used, honestly, because I think there are times where people use and abuse rather than trust me as a tool. And that aggravates me, is because I'd much rather see you guys be used than me being used and abused. And I say this all the time, that I hope that Stephen will be a better man, twice the man that I am. Because maybe I've trained him and encouraged him and equipped him that when decisions in life that I face that I failed miserably at, he won't fail miserably at. And maybe he'll have an opportunity to speak in front of thousands at a pep rally when he comes back in 20 years at homecoming. Or maybe Colton, he's put you with incredible athletic ability, not so that you can score touchdowns, but so that you can have influence over people in your community. For some of you, you may be coming from really, really simple beginnings, but it's not about where you begin. It's about the journey. I mean, if you understand, ask Bill. October 16th. He's 5 minutes away from taking his last breath, and he's holding up his wife in a floating refrigerator. And now he's leading students every week, and you're on YouTube, dude. You are a internet sensation. You have like 36 views. Which for Orlando is really, I think 36. I may have ministerially counted above that, but I'm just saying, 2 years ago, he probably would have been thinking that he's been on KXN. I mean, he's like been on the big time, okay? I've been on Fox Sports, just saying. And what does that mean? I mean, when the Harlem Wizards came a couple years ago, I scored 10 points against them. I mean, what is it to score in a game? What does it mean? At the end of the day, you pancake blocked somebody. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? Is life different because you had an opportunity to do that? And people will forget you the next game. Check this. Can they accomplish, listen, here's the question. When you minister to somebody, that somebody, can they accomplish more than we have?
Of course.
I mean, that's the crazy thing, is can the people that we minister to accomplish twice as much as we can? I mean, students, you got to understand this. If you share the gospel with somebody on your football team, on your basketball team, or cross-country team, and you tell them about Jesus, can they experience twice what you have? Totally. Elisha goes back and he serves a feast. He kills the oxen and uses the materials as fuel for the fire. He's saying, I'm leaving forever. I'm taking a step of faith that nobody else has taken right now. I think a lot of what I'm trying to get to is not that you take great, grand steps of faith and all of a sudden all of you become missionaries to cannibalistic tribes in Ecuador. I'm telling you, I just want you to get up tomorrow and live for Christ the best way that you can tomorrow, without excuses. I'm telling you, take steps of faith that when you read God's word, it's life-changing. Elisha follows Elijah for the next 5 chapters of the Old Testament, short chapters. But he sets the foundation for the next step in Elisha's life. Check this, 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 9 and 10. Check this out. This is really interesting. And so it was when they had crossed over that Elijah said to Elisha, ask what may I do for you before I'm taken away from you. And Elisha says, please let me have a double portion of your spirit be upon me. So he said, you've asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if you see me when I'm taken up from you, it shall be so. But if not, it shall not be so. This is what I'm going to tell you. 2 things. First, there's an emphasis on the kind of man of God Elijah was in just a few short chapters. 2nd thing you need to know is, check this, he wanted a double portion. whatever the greatness of who Elijah was, he wanted a double portion. He wasn't like, oh, if I could just eat from the scrapsuya table, it would be the most blessed thing ever. Can I have like a shirt from your next concert? He's like, no, I want to be double, twice the man. I want to be more famous. I want to do more things. I want to see more miracles done through me. Check this. Over the course of Elisha's ministry, he did twice, exactly twice the recorded ministry miracles that Elijah did. That's nuts. That's crazy, man. Like he asked for double. He saw Elijah when he was taken up into heaven, and then he did twice the miracles. I want to show you something really personal. I asked my youth pastor, who was the guy that was there when I was baptized. I asked him to share a little bit about what I was like as a teenager. And then I'll show you that video, and then we'll kind of move on.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jay, and 25 years ago, which is impossible to believe, I was Craig's student minister in Mart, Texas, which means Craig is really old, and so you can be sure to remind him of that. Although that also means that I'm older, so anyway. Craig asked me to answer a couple of questions for you guys about our time together in Mart, his early time in ministry, kind of as he was getting ready to move into the student ministry. So first question Craig has here is, as a youth minister, what was a primary goal that I had in First Baptist Mart? And so I don't know that I was real intentional about a lot of things early, but I knew this. I knew that I wanted to do everything I possibly could to make sure that every student in Mart and all the little towns around that fed into our church, that every student heard about Jesus, heard the story, heard the gospel, and that we were building a ministry that helped students move consistently closer to Jesus. So yeah, I think in terms of goals, that was it. I wanted to talk about Jesus. I wanted students to hear about Jesus, and I wanted to see them grow as disciples, and whatever that looked like for every student. Craig asks, when Craig started coming to church, what potential did you see in him? So early on, I recognized that Craig had a big heart. He still has a big heart. You guys know that. Craig loved people, everybody, and everybody loved him. But he also had this openness about him. So when Craig showed up at church and some of our youth events, it wasn't like he was sitting in the front row saying, tell me everything you possibly can about Jesus. But he was listening to everything we said about Jesus and the life of faith and what that could look like. And was open not just to hearing about it, but also then thinking about what that meant for him and what he was supposed to be doing with the things that we were talking about. And, you know, ultimately that's what God's looking for, right? He's not looking for people who are perfect. He's not looking for people who have it all together, but he's looking for people who are open, who are listening, and who are ready to take whatever that next step looks like for them. So, yeah. So then the third question, what steps did you take to help Craig develop as a future minister? So after Craig had been around for a year or so, and Craig, forgive me, I don't remember exactly, he and I had a conversation about how he was feeling like God might be calling him to professional ministry, to do what I did, to become a youth pastor. And so we talked a little bit about just opportunities for him to start kind of taking a look at what that looked like beyond just the Sunday morning, Wednesday night kind of churchy event kinds of things. So in terms of steps, to get to the question that's been asked, I think there are three things that I can remember happening. I don't know how intentional they all were all the time, but this is what it looked like. So the first one was that we were really committed to giving all of our older students, and Craig was one of those, opportunities to lead. So I remember Craig speaking in our Wednesday night service more than once. I know that Craig had opportunity to lead younger students in Bible studies. So we set up a discipleship curriculum for our junior high students, and Craig was one of the high school leaders that helped with that, and then a little more as he moves out of high school and then college. Just every time there was an opportunity for leadership roles, so we traveled, we took mission trips, and our older students served as leaders in different groups on those trips as well. So just lots of opportunities to lead, to be up front, to engage with people, to help other people learn, but also to lead from behind. And I think that kind of gets to the second thing. Just gave him lots of opportunities to see what ministry looked like beyond what you see on the stage. So Craig's set up a ton of chairs over the years as he would show up on Wednesday nights and just help get everything set up for us, and Sundays help get things set up for us. Made phone calls, printed flyers, just lots of that kind of behind the scenes stuff that isn't terribly exciting. It's not always fun, but it's necessary. It's kind of the grunt work of ministry that's important. And I think it's important to know that that's what it is, that it isn't everything that goes on up front. So just getting to see kind of the non-glamorous side of what life in ministry looks like. And then the last thing, and I think the most important thing, is that I showed up. Like my goal was to be in Craig's life, and in the lives of lots of other students, but thinking about his heart to move into ministry, we had lots of conversations, and some of them were really serious about really important things, and some of them were goofy, and they weren't terribly important things, but it was that sharing life and doing life together. So sometimes it was getting really deep into stuff, and sometimes it was standing out on a basketball court as he tried to teach me how to shoot a basketball, and by the way, never was very successful in that. And I blame him as a coach less than I do my abilities. But it was just showing up. It was being together and spending that time, and being then available, because I think what that allowed us to do then is have a relationship that when hard things need to be talked about, or uncomfortable things need to be talked about, that relationship was already there to talk out of. It wasn't something we had to generate very quickly. And I have kept track of Craig through the years. We've obviously stayed connected, and I know that that's something he does with students as well.
So I think that's probably the ending point. I edited it out because he had a lot more to share. He shared some very personal things at the end. But I show that to say this, is that everything that I am started with him. He's now working for a secular university in the state of Oklahoma. He's not in vocational ministry. He's not a youth minister or pastor or whatever anymore. But one of the things he said this to me in an email: "You've been in it for the long haul and have served faithfully and well." He wrote me a letter 2 weeks before I started my first church. I was part-time at Trinity Memorial Baptist Church in Marvin, Texas, home of the Fighting Bulldogs. Check this out. They even had a mission statement back then. First Baptist, Mark, where the Bible is taught, the family is emphasized, and everybody is somebody. I think it's great. The Bible's taught, family is emphasized, and everybody is somebody, because everybody is somebody. Check this. Last line. It says, "I love you, and again, I'm unbelievably proud of you. Get out there and get busy." And I've busted my tail for 20-some years. And when you hear him, Renee, you can hear my voice when he's going, "I just want everybody to hear about Jesus." Like she was at Trujillo's, and when they interviewed me 3.5 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, God bless, that's a long time. So if anything's wrong with me, it's really Renee's fault. Because she got me here. But here's the thing I'm trying to get across to you. I come from a family that we did not come from a winning tradition. I was not most popular. Everybody liked me. I wouldn't go so far as to say everybody loved me in Llano, but in the church setting that I was in at First Baptist Mark, everybody loved everybody. Here's the other crazy thing. There are 10 other people from a 3-year span of students. 3-year span from like when I was a senior, some of them were freshmen basically. 10 of them are either in the ministry or serving as the spouse of a minister. Like a small, like we never had more than 40 in our youth group on any given Wednesday night. It was marked. It's like a 1A town now. But get me, this is what I'm trying to get you guys to think about. Number one is I'm not expecting you to do great things that are going to be written about in the annals of history of Llano, and you're going to make the Llano High School Hall of Fame because of your faith in Jesus and how you change people's lives. I'm asking you to just take steps of faith daily. To think that there's more than what you've been living for. Here's the thing that I want you to be encouraged. If you're a leader, listen, if you're a leader, I have higher expectations of who you are than you do. And here's why, is I am absolutely sick of average. I'm sick of unexceptional, unintentional, unremarkable, lackluster, zero urgency, nothing to write a home about faith that does not inspire those around you to holiness. I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. I'm frustrated by it. Because when I look at this room, I recognize that there is potential just in us as there was in Elisha, who was pushing cows around some rich man's field. There are people without Christ all over our town, all over our community, people who think they have just enough Christ that they're going to get into heaven, but don't live a life that has any influence. Zero. Lackluster urgency. Bottom line is, I want us to continue to believe and trust in a God that rescues, redeems, restores, and gives life to the dead soul. My greatest fear that I am finding out right now is that you will not live up to your potential and you'll fail yourself, not me. That's what scares me at this very moment in my life, is that no matter how much encouragement any of these adults can have in your life, you're going to end up failing yourself, not us. Because you're not willing to get rid of the excuses, get rid of the stuff, get rid of the junk, lay aside everything. Or you're so vehemently opposed to everything that's encouraging to you that you are just belligerent to the people who do love you and care for you. That probably aggravates me just as much as when you tell somebody that you love and care for them and you've done 3 years of nothing but show that person, and then they look at you like you're a dumb tree leaning over in a river. You're like, oh. Like, that just aggravates the mess out of me. Because I think that there's purpose for your life. There's purpose for my life. And I don't want you to miss out on that life. And it's going to cost some of you a lot. Some of you, it will cost your friends. I don't care. What do you think Elisha gave up? He gave up 2 cows, 2 oxen. And he left his family. A rich family. But some of you, you won't give up your choices. Some of you, you won't give up your intentional rebellion. Some of you will not give up the sins that you know God has said this is not right in your own life. I mean, you brought me here. You might as well have a word in edgewise. Go ahead.
Please.
Oh, sure.
But if you're willing to give it up for Christ, God will make it worth it. He will make it worth it if you'll give it up now.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one to get you through it.
And if you want to know, ask me.
And why do I keep coming back to this? This is crazy. This is like, it wasn't even part of the original statement. But the greatness of God, and they've given their lives to him because they knew he was worth it. It's like whatever risk you're going to take. And some of you were like, well, I'm going to play sports. Okay. And some of you got encouraged to run cross country until you realized that you were going to have to run, and you're like, nah, I'm out. To the degree that you put forth the effort in following Christ will be to the degree that God multiplies the blessing back to you because you tried. For some of you who at times I look at you with the potential of being a leader, there are times that my fear that you're going to give up quicker than I can encourage you. Are the days where I feel like sometimes this ministry has not gone anywhere, because the moment that I feel like I can trust you is the moment where you go, nah, I'm out. And it breaks my heart sometimes. You get me? I want to trust everybody that when I say, hey, can you do this? You're like, dude, I'm all in. Like, I'm all in. Like, we're playing poker. I'm all in. Because you have everything to gain and nothing to lose by following Christ. So when you go to your small groups tonight, we're a little short on time. I'm going to blame it on my youth minister because I had to edit out like 20 minutes of his video. Don't blame it on him. Actually, I'm going to blame it on me because I was too excited about what I was sharing tonight. So when you go to your small groups, there's 6 questions. There's just 6 questions. I don't care if you cover the questions or not. You understand me? I care that you guys begin understanding you're made for a purpose. And if you miss out on that, you miss out on it. So adult leaders, you got me? If you don't cover questions, don't cover questions. You got about 10 minutes. The women's Bible study didn't get out until like 7:45, so you got some playtime. Okay? Make sense? Okay. Who would like to pray with the enthusiasm of a love for... Go, Cameron. I mean, I'm not going to get in your way. Go for it.
Dear Lord, thanks for this day. Thank you for all the blessings you have, Lord. Lord, I just want to thank you for everything that Ted said today. And I want to thank you for the way that it spoke to my heart and hopefully to everyone else's heart in this room. Lord, in your son's name, I pray. Amen.